This is Gemstones and Whiskey, an Outlander podcast. I'm Ashley Alexandra.
And I'm Reena Ezra.
And welcome to season 2! Episode 1, Through a Glass, Darkly.
Alright, we are playing it after the intro credits now. This is so exciting.
Yes.
We're going to be in a whole new place. We're going to be doing all sorts of new things. It feels like... like beginning? Claire and... a new beginning, yeah. I was also going to say, because last time at the end of season 1, we saw them leave on a ship.
Yes.
So
Claire...
It's like they went on a cruise or they went on vacation.
Yes.
That's definitely not what it is.
Right. In my mind, that's what I would love.
This is finally their honeymoon. That's how I see it.
Yeah, the vibe I'm getting from Claire at the moment is not really like post-cruise vibes.
No, it's not. Not that, no.
So Claire woke up in a field in the middle of the stone circle, and she seemed a bit panicked.
Again! We're here again.
So...
And she was picking up a ring.
Yes, so she was looking for a necklace and a ring. And then she screamed in slow-mo.
With her beautiful curly locks blowing in the wind.
And she is saying that he's gone, they're gone, the whole world that I was a part of, just moments ago is gone. So this is an interesting start. I remember being very confused and thinking when I watched it, because I was watching it on Netflix, and I was like binging real fast. And I thought maybe it had I skipped episodes.
Yes, same. Yes,
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I was like, how did we get
happening.
Here? Yeah. And we see also a vehicle approaching, so we definitely know she's not in the 1700s.
Although she's still dressed like she is. So that's interesting. And this
Scottish garb.
Lovely man is like, hey, how you doing? Walking on this road by yourself wearing Renaissance
The Ren Fair's that way, yeah. Where's your dill pickle and turkey leg? Yeah, she looks like she's completely out of sorts.
Yes.
And this gentleman tells her it's 1948.
Because that's the first thing she asks is, what year is it? Because, well...
Is that the first thing you would ask, right? If you're jumping in a different time?
Yeah, so again, we don't really know what happened, but
idea.
I'm assuming at this point, if she's through the stone circle and it's 1948 and she's wearing what she was just wearing in the 1700s, that she has gone through the stones. Yeah, I mean... Because, again, she has no idea what's going to happen when she touches that stone again, right? Where are you going to get... Are you going to get spit back out? And in what year?
Yes, yeah. Because there's just that buzzing that happens around her, and you're right, she has no control.
Because at this point, she's only done it once before, accidentally. So there's really... While she heard a song about how someone was able to go... back after coming through, she doesn't know for sure that it would work.
Yes. Also, so this gives us a glimpse into we now know she can go through the rocks more than once.
Correct.
B, she did just ask that man who, I love how she just grabs him by the chest, who won the Battle of Culloden?
Yes.
So that is now a pivotal event that we have, obviously, the beginning of season 2, now we have more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Because we're setting it all up. So, and we're here with Frank.
Yeah. So Frank's in what looks to be a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
A 1948 hospital, which looks like somewhere I would never like to go. Because I feel like anytime you see a scary hospital, it's a 1948 hospital.
Yeah, it just reminds me of American Horror Story, if you've ever seen the series, Asylum.
Yes.
That's what it gives me.
Where they're please, just breathe in this gas and don't worry about what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
That's frightening. Mm-hmm. It gives me Sleep No More vibes. Did you ever see Sleep No More?
No, I haven't.
We'll talk about it out.
Ooh, okay.
We're going to take up this time, but it's very cool. So Frank's walking into Claire's hospital room.
And Frank has not seen Claire in
2 years.
Oh yeah,
right?
Two or 3 years.
2 to 3 years. I think it was
because it's 1945 when she disappeared.
Oh, was it? Okay. So yeah.
Or it might have been 1946.
Whatever.
Two.
I
think we're roughly around the same. Yeah, around the same area. I'm just obsessing over a detail, but yes, that's the gist of it. Which is still may not seem like a lot of time, but when your wife just comes out of nowhere and just appears, and you have zero explanation.
They both seem very anxious.
Oh yeah, they're both very unsettled.
They can't even look each other in the eye, or at least Claire can't look Frank in the eye.
Well, I mean, because she just had
as a whole
terrible experience with Jack Randall, so it is kind of weird to just assimilate yourself back into normal modern day society. Yeah.
So as Frank took a step towards her, she got like a flashback to Black Jack Randall.
She's got major PTSD.
Yeah, and he's like, "Whoa, sorry, I just was taking a step." And she's like, "No, okay, not your fault." Hey, and now a photographer's just in. Could you imagine that happening in 2021? Like paparazzi just like in someone's hospital room?
No. I can't imagine that. How did that guy get? How did he get in there?
Well, I
guess
there's no security ever for any. Like everything that we know now, like did not exist.
Yep. Yeah.
I was just speaking with someone recently about like just airport security and how different that was, and I can't even imagine.
You used to say goodbye to your loved ones at the gate.
Anybody could walk you right up to the gate of an airplane.
Very different.
So
TSA was not a thing. It used to not be a thing. It didn't exist yet.
So Claire's very uncomfortable. And she seems like she feels very vulnerable.
Also on edge. There's a lot of unknowns for her as well. And, now Frank is seeing her outfit on what she was wearing, the Scottish garb, the dress, and he's looking at her corset, and, he's quite confused.
Also, he's a historian, not that he would necessarily know the intricate details of clothing, but like he has to know to a certain extent that like that's a real period specific design, right? Like
sure, yeah. Which I think it is. He does trust his knowledge, and he does have a great concern for Claire. And of course you want to put reason and logic towards like what is going on here. So I feel like he had the clothing examined, right? And then they're saying now that it was on authentic 18th century Scottish wardrobe.
Because he's with the Reverend, so they're staying with
his
old pal, Reverend.
Kind of circled it back. Yeah, we started here and now we're starting here again.
Yeah.
In season 2. So yeah, I think that Frank is definitely like, yeah, something's off, so I'm gonna do my research and, trying to put these puzzle pieces together. Which now Claire is also trying to put her own puzzle pieces together and just reading tons and tons of books about the Battle of Culloden.
Yes,
and the Jacobite Rebellion.
Yes, pretty much devouring those.
So this season definitely gets very interesting with Claire's, what becomes an obsession of Claire's, and as usual, we had pieces of this in season 1, but in season 2, the connection now between Claire and Frank, and how is this going to work? Are we finding our way toward each other, or are we growing more distant?
And something very interesting, like the Reverend, I think a little rudely was like, so did she give you any answers yet on what's going on? And he's like, I'm not pressuring her. Like, no, I don't really know. We haven't spoken about, like, what happened, really. She's not ready to talk about it. And he's like, well, I think you deserve to know what's going on. And I get it as a friend, like, yeah, you would say that. But also, I don't know. Yeah, I guess actually I'm thinking now, if it were my friend, I'd be like, so you're just gonna, like, take this person back and they've given you no answers of where they literally disappeared to?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I think the Reverend A, yes, looking out for Frank, but B, there's definitely been talk around the village. People were assuming, like, oh, she left you. Oh, she went to with another man, and
she's in the paper now. Like, it's something that's talked about. They know that this is a woman who disappeared out of nowhere and is suddenly back.
And now you have a bunch of eyes. People are poking in your business. I think that is very, it's classic Frank, though, where he's like, no, I'm going to give her space. I'm going to have her digest this, at her own time and not pressure her. Even though, like, Frank's probably wishes that they could be doing this together. But Claire seems very closed off.
I forget her name. It's the Reverend's housekeeper who, her and her family, she's the one that was involved in the, like, the traditional, tribal, like, act in the beginning, like, the first episode, I think it was.
Yes.
That the Druids used to do, because she comes from a line of Druids. Mrs. Graham, thank you. Mrs. Graham is outside with Claire, bringing her the books about Culloden and tea and whatever else she needs. And Claire has opened up to her, and she's talking about Jamie. Like, she's been through this horrific experience, which we don't quite know exactly what it was, right? We know she's back in 1948. We don't know exactly how she got there and when she left. And, I mean, obviously she's not ready to share it with Frank, and, like, it's such a crazy thing, but, if you remember, Mrs. Graham is the one, when Claire originally went missing, that said to Frank, like, listen, there are these rumors about the stones and people passing through them. Yeah. So, like, she, I think, really believes Claire, or at least believes that it is possible. Like, this crazy notion, she might actually be telling the truth.
Yeah. I think also, like, she's telling Claire right now, like, treasure it. You just went on an insane journey that not many people, hardly anybody else experiences. But she is also kind of warning her, where she's just like, Frank is a, living, breathing man right in front of you, his flesh and bone. Like, pay attention to this guy. Like, you do have a husband here. And Mrs. Graham's phrase was like, don't go chasing ghosts.
Well, and what's interesting is, at this present moment, she keeps talking about how Jamie's gone and everyone's gone, and is it in the sense that she has left and come back to this time, so that obviously they're not existing in this current time that she's in, or what does the gone mean, right?
Right.
So
we don't know. Yeah,
even Mrs. Graham saying, like, don't go chasing ghosts. Is it ghosts of the past, or is it, like, what? It makes me really wonder what has brought Claire here.
Yeah, we also don't know anything about how the Battle of Culloden went down. We know it's in a history book. In this moment, we don't know who was there, what happened, why Claire isn't there, there's so much more information we must gather. I don't know. I feel like even if I came back to 1948, I at least would, hug Frank. She has given him, like, no physical... Like, yes, to be fair, she had an entire relationship with Jamie.
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
And it feels like she's mourning a loss here, and a loss she doesn't even know what happened to.
I think maybe we'll find out why she's not so quick, but, like, yeah.
Well, no, I get that also because, you know, Jack Randall definitely didn't leave anyone with a good taste in their mouth, and the fact that Frank looks just like him.
Well, and if you think about it, like, okay, we've been with them for a season, but this is supposed to be somewhere between 2 and 3 years.
Yes.
Like, that's a long time to not see someone and to have made the choice to not return to them.
True.
And live a whole other life with someone else. Like, at this point, it has to feel like that person is a stranger.
That is very fair. Frank is like a stranger to her. And you're absolutely right. Very good point that in the beginning of this episode, when she was waking up by the stones, it did seem we can kind of assume that she wasn't there by her own free will.
Right.
It definitely did not seem like it was a decision she wanted to make, at least. Yeah. However, she got, back to 1948.
But her and Frank are sitting down to...
And she's going to unpack.
Talk about where she's been. And we can see, like, they're spending a lot of time throwing more logs on the fire. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I think back to, he was able to listen to Mrs. Graham's suggestion that perhaps this was a possibility that she had gone through the stones. But once she kind of said her piece, he was like respectfully like, I don't believe that that's possible. Yeah. However, shortly thereafter, he did end up going to Craignadoon. Mm-hmm. And there's still that question of whether or not he like heard her. Yeah. So it's interesting to think what he is thinking in this moment.
Yeah, I think it is similar struggles to last season, where it's like his faith versus he's a practical man, he's a historian, there has to be again, logic behind this has to make sense. And then when he's trying to put, pieces together in his head, where Claire's like, I understand this is, fantasy, it sounds like magic, but she's trying to be honest with him.
Well,
and he doesn't, I don't think he knows how to be supportive of her right now. And this is what she's upset with him about, because he is so academically, that's how he thinks of things.
But I think, okay, sorry.
There's a lot going on here that they're talking about right now.
So I think he is being, so he's essentially saying like, okay, like, if that's the story, I'll accept that that's the story. No, that's not necessarily the same as being like, yes, I 100% believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think in this moment, he's like, I want you back. Like, that's all I've ever wanted during this time. And like...
And now he has her.
I'm not going to question it, essentially. Yeah. Like...
Yeah. But she's like telling him, she's like, I married somebody else.
Yeah.
He sees which I don't know if she has the other ring on his finger, but I think this is like, once again, I feel like Claire is so incredibly self-involved, where it's like, keep in mind, this tore Frank apart. He was devastated when you just disappeared. Like, what do you think he's been doing for the past few years?
Yeah, but I also think there's a part of her that doesn't...
Care?
No, doesn't want to be with Frank again. Like,
but you have to have some sort of empathy, at least. You have to have, I feel like she's just incredibly cold.
But here's my question is, like, did she ask for him to be contacted that she was back? Or did she give her legal name and they were like, oh, you belong to so-and-so who's your husband? we're gonna call him up. You know what I mean?
True,
So, like,
true,
if she's in this moment, whatever she's been through, like, if she had to come back essentially against her will, like, yeah, she's gonna push, like, if he's saying, like, okay, I believe you, she's gonna be like, but you shouldn't, like, but don't you not believe me, or you shouldn't believe me, and try and push him away, because I don't think she really wants to be with him, and I think it would be easier for her to, like, have him reject her and her have to figure out a plan B. Like, I think she's smart enough and savvy enough to figure out a plan B on her own versus now having to go back to Frank, who she's already decided or had already decided not to return back to.
Right. So I agree. I'm not saying Claire should go back with him.
Yeah.
I know she's independent. I know she's definitely made up her own mind already because she was, she felt like she met the man for her was Jamie. Like their connection is obviously very different, like we said, between her connection with her connection with Frank. But like, I'm saying, yeah, she can go off and do her own thing and be independent, but at least acknowledge that, like, they're each kind of hurting in their own way. And then she also just drops a bomb.
She's like, oh, by the way, she's like, oh, you're so okay with it? You're so okay with everything I said? Well, guess what? I'm pregnant.
And he's like, that's wonderful. Like, that's not yours, right? It's Jamie's baby.
No, he doesn't.
How this doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean, Frank? Like, I know you're not a doctor,
right?
Come on, we don't need to get
You're
Maury.
A man of intellect.
We don't need Maury here to know you're not the father.
Ooh, and he lunges at her. And
with a clenched fist.
Yeah, this is only the second time we've seen Frank this upset. Once was when he was beating up those people in the alleyway who lied and said they were trying to rob him. Anyway. Now when he finds out she's pregnant by someone else. Oh gosh, I really feel for Claire.
This has got to be like Frank feels like his heart was ripped out, but like Claire is now carrying the baby of a man she is so far away from now, in distance and time.
Well, yeah, and let's not forget, it seemed as though, I think they kind of confirmed it, Frank really wanted kids.
Yep.
And they couldn't conceive together.
Yeah.
So, he's real mad, and he's
tearing
taken
up the shed.
A tiny bat to, or no, I don't know what it is. A spindle.
It just looks like a giant wooden stick.
To everything in the garage of his friend.
Yeah, this is not even his property. He's just bashing someone else's.
Wouldn't love that. Luckily, it's a lot of just empty crates, so that's fine, I guess. Yeah.
As long as you don't break my beach chairs. Take your anger out on something else. Imagine the Reverend comes in. Frank, what are you doing? I understand you're mad, but also it's forgot.
Frank's
does
like,
apologize
my sincerest apologies.
Sorry,
for
Reverend.
breaking all of your empty milk cartons in the garage.
This is just like this. I love how season 2 can't even start with hope.
Right?
It's immediately like, nope.
And it's like even more uncomfortable because they're like, we're gonna make you feel real uncomfortable because things are gonna be tense and you're not gonna know exactly why.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we're in the house of like parents who should be divorced. Like,
yes,
like mommy,
then
daddy
just
fighting.
get divorced already.
Oh my gosh, like you do not enjoy each other anymore. Like with each other's like I don't think there's a way for them to ever come back from this, obviously, but for like Frank and Claire's relationship to ever be I personally don't think I just don't see how this could work. I don't see how, she can't just erase all that time she had with Jamie and start new with Frank. You can't pretend to.
And you're not even starting new, right? Like, it's not even like she's starting over with a new person where you can, like, define together she can set boundaries or expectations that fit her current needs. Like, you're trying to now make it work with someone that you already established previous boundaries and expectations with, and then to, like, go and try to, like, be like, oh, let's redefine things. Like, that rarely works.
They're already starting on an unhealthy foundation. Like, this is not even good from the get-go.
Here's what I will say. Frank did just disclose to his friend the Reverend that he was like, Claire and I tried to get pregnant years ago, didn't work. I started thinking that I was incapable of, producing. Mm-hmm. And he went to a doctor at Oxford, and he said that he confirmed he is sterile. And I just want to applaud Frank for, like, saying that, because even though it was to his friend, I feel like it's very easy for most men to be like, I don't know why she's not getting pregnant. It must be her problem.
But he went to go check himself, to find out. But he never told Claire that he was sterile. She was always thinking it was her.
Right.
He never disclosed that information.
But like, also, who knows what that timing was.
True.
Maybe it was relatively close to when
she disappeared.
Yeah. Maybe he was going to tell her that day. It's interesting. When he went back to those stones, I was going to tell you. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah. Well. Also, this was just like, he's like, they're still in Scotland. This is not where, like, he's been in Scotland the whole time while she was.
I don't know about that.
Or he came back.
He came back maybe when he heard she was here, or I don't.
No, that's a possibility.
Does he work here now?
Right.
I can't remember.
Right.
So we see. This is little kid Roger, who is the Reverend's. I think it's actually the Reverend's nephew.
I think
he's raising as his son because Roger's parents both passed away. Mm-hmm. Which, like, I don't know, I just think about that, and that's so sweet. Like, family members who take in their kiddos.
Oh, yeah. That kid was fortunate enough to have a support system like that.
And that they were, like, good
to
him.
And they're good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that they are good to him. Yeah.
Like, he does raise Roger like he's his own.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super, super sweet. Which, now I feel like every time Frank sees a young kid, it's always going to be like a jab in his heart.
Well, but also, like, think about how many people are struggling with that, too, like, out in the world.
Yeah.
Trouble conceiving or having lost a child or children, and,
It's also, it just stinks because I feel like, Frank deserves to be happy. He deserves to have a kid. He would be a good dad.
Yes.
He would be like a good father. He was a good family man. It's just like you and Claire are just on completely different pages right now.
Yeah. But he comes up to Claire and says, okay, not a problem. Because I think, it helps to see a friend who has done it, who has been able to, like, put any pride aside or whatever else he's feeling in that moment, like, at the idea of raising another man's child. Like, because it's not just, you've taken in a child that was in need, it's also the added layer of, like, your wife disappeared for years and reappears pregnant by someone else. Like, that is a whole other layer to it. But he swallows his
cookie
pride, and whatever else he's feeling, and he's like, all right, I want us to be together, and, like, I'll raise this baby as my own, and, like, do right by you, but I also have some rules.
After everything, though, Frank still wants to raise the kid as a team.
Yeah. It's very important to him to raise the kid as their own. So essentially being like, nobody can know that it's not my kid.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, he was saying, so this child actually has a father and not people just telling him about this memory of Jamie and whoever this is. What would you say to that, Ashley? Do you agree with Frank?
If I was in Claire's position?
Yeah, and this, man was being like, I'll raise it as ours, but, like, the kid must know now that I'm the father, and, like, this Jamie person doesn't exist.
I think it's complex because it's also not like Jamie is a man who is living at the same time as them. You know what I mean? It would be different if it was like, oh, by this other person who existed in 1948. And, like,
how do you explain the rest
to think if I were in Claire's position where I've traveled through time, met, married, and conceived a child with a man who I think is my absolute soulmate, and then traveled back through time and now still pregnant. I mean, who can you tell that story to, right? So, like, to even...
Your therapist.
Yeah, like, I don't love the idea of, like, raising the child in that lie, but also, in what reality could you really tell anyone the truth? Yes. Because it doesn't sound real at all. And is that more damaging? Like, imagine saying to a kid, like, no, your daddy lived in 1700s. Like...
Yeah. Best to keep it simple.
Like, yeah.
Overcomplicate things with a kid. I mean, Claire does accept his conditions, Frank's conditions. And she also did say, which I think is a huge reason why she is doing this is because she did make a promise, or Jamie made her promise, where he's like, you need to let me go.
Yeah.
That's all. We don't know what that was in context to. We don't know that was just the line she just said. We don't know the specific situation. But yeah, it just seems like, she's having real difficulty moving. Like, you just hope that time will heal.
Right.
All ailments, all things. And, like, this will be easier. The change will be easier as time goes on. Because, of course, it feels so incredibly fresh right now.
So she does have Jamie's ring still on, and she's going to take it off and is... really struggling with it, and Frank says
he's
that's
just like,
right.
It's okay. He's like,
when you're ready, which is pretty nice. I mean, he's like, I'm still burning the rest of your clothes, but but again, Frank loves Claire.
Yeah,
like
he does. Yeah,
he really does.
Yeah. It's still just so sad, this love triangle.
Very depressing.
Like, because when you want to be with somebody, but that person is not reciprocating, and it's just like, what are you going to do? Can you force him? You can't do any, like, it's also going to be very interesting to see where Claire's mental state is during this. Just throughout the season, especially in the beginning, and also where she is mentally in the relationship with Frank.
Mm.
And now we're back with the 1940s costume and props and set and, like, her blue
and they're looking sharp, I will say that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, also, the other thing, because we were chatting, but on the screen earlier, Frank was saying there was a position at Harvard in Boston that he wasn't originally going to take, but I believe they are, or he is taking it, so they are going to the States.
And Frank literally went outside and is burning
could
Claire's
he have waited?
1700s clothes.
You have to do it now?
No, because I think for him, like, he laid out his guidelines, and, like, for him, it's like, we start it right now. Because I don't think he could stand for one more second leaving that door open.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, too, because I keep thinking about what Frank must be thinking. And, you know, Claire is a very practical person and always has been. So, again, to have someone like Claire be like, I touched stones and traveled through them, like, that has to be really hard to figure out why, right? Like, that, I think, would eat away at me forever, to be like, what actually happened, though?
Like, how she's able to go through the stones, you mean?
No, meaning, like, I
or still trying to process.
I don't know her to be a woman of fantasy, so, like, I'm inclined to believe what she tells me the story is.
Mm-hmm.
But she's giving me this crazy story that I can't possibly believe actually happened. So then I feel like it leaves this question of, like, but what did actually happen?
Yeah.
At this moment. Like, right now, at this moment, I think he will continue to try and find answers to that question. And,
I agree. I think that is always going to be looming in the back of...
Whoa!
We just transitioned to a flashback and
Now, these are two people who just got off a cruise.
We're in France in, what did it say, 1774?
Yeah.
But I was just going to say back to your thing that, yes, I think this is always going to be looming in the back of Frank's mind, like what actually happened. But I think also Claire she's not really too obsessive over that. She's a practical person, but she's just very distracted by her love.
Yeah.
You know, Jamie, what happened? Whatever, she's more concerned with that.
I have to say, Jamie's looking good.
He's grown out his hair.
Yeah.
Look at them locks.
With, like, I don't know what it is. Is his outfit different too, or is it just the
his
hair?
Outfit's different. Yep.
It's working
pants.
for him.
He's
it's
not
good.
wearing a kilt.
Pants.
Yeah, and his suit, his blazer, whatever you want to call that,
Yes.
is different. Everything is now. We're in France now, baby.
I know.
Stepped up a notch.
A la mode means to the style, right? Is that what
Oh, sure,
to the style or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Or in the fashion, to the fashion. I don't know.
In fashion, up to date, yeah, that's a la mode.
Yeah, which is interesting because pies are very fashionable. So he looks great. I think he's probably still not feeling 100% because, you know, his hand was completely reconstructed using only materials that are available in an abbey of the 1700s.
Yeah.
By someone who is a battlefield nurse. Not to, you know, to, like, throw shade on Claire. I'm just saying, like, facts of the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
His hand's pretty mangled.
For sure. She worked with what she had. And now they're settled into this new living space, or where they're staying for now. It's definitely static. I mean, just thinking as far as like France versus Scotland, very different styles, very different aesthetics, very different kinds of people, very different kinds of, poverty in both places, and also varying economic statuses in both places, and people who are very, very luxurious and wealthy in France.
Definitely a culture shock, I'm sure.
Yeah. For the both of them. I don't think neither of them have been to France, right?
Claire was.
You're right, duh.
But under different circumstances.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Of
course.
So Jamie, like, shared for a moment with Claire that he can, like, still kind of feel Black Jack.
On him.
Yeah.
On his body. In his mind.
And Claire's like, he's not here. I'm here. He's dead. Don't worry about it. And then they go on to talk a little bit more about the Jacobite Rising, because that's where we left off in season 1. As they were,
thinks she can stop it.
Yeah, sailing for France. Claire kind of pitched the idea of like, what if we can change history?
Which I still think is so absurd. Like, I think they like, if my partner and I finally got out of the mess, from Wentworth Prison and leaving Scotland, I would be like, yeah, let's start fresh. Let's just move forward and think about the future, even though I know, because I'm not from 1945 or 90, I know, what's going to happen, what the history books say as far as, like, the revolt in Scotland, but, like,
okay.
Stop trying to control everything, Claire. Like, you can't save everybody. I just feel like, why is she putting herself in such a mess?
But, okay, also imagine that you know what's going to happen. Your partner knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All of your friends, your loved ones, do not know what's going to happen. And they're not in a position where you could be like, hey, can we all just move to this other place?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you go to the extreme, but I understand why that would be a thought. Like, to know that, I mean, everyone and everything for the most part is destroyed after the Battle of Culloden, whether that be due to actually fighting or then just the way the British kind of ravaged the Highlands after that. I don't know.
I totally get it, because she's very attached to these people. They are her family. Yeah. This is who she's been with for the past, this chunk of time.
Yeah.
But really, what difference can you make? Like, she is so stuck sometimes in... She is like, she's like, I'm in the 1700s. Like, I'm living, this is like where we are. But it's just like, keep in mind, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the 40s have happened. Like, everyone's gonna die anyway. Like,
and they did.
I'm just such a pessimist.
I guess here's what I see. Like, yes, they skipped some steps there. Like, how about first, like, you focus on Jenny and Ian and their kids, and you're like, hey, we all need to leave. Don't ask us why.
They don't know. Do they know they left for France?
Or
they do.
At
they
this
know
present
they got
moment,
Jamie out of Scotland.
I'm sure they sent some word. Yeah. Like Angus or Rupert or whatever.
Got you.
But yeah, I guess that is the next thing, like, to send them a letter and be like, hey, we need you guys to pick up and leave. But again, they're also... His family's not just any other family in a village. They're responsible to other people and their well-being. It's all very complicated.
They can't just get up and flee. Yeah.
But yes, no, to be like, what if we could change history?
Yeah, I feel like Claire thinks very highly of herself sometimes.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can accomplish anything. And it's just like, all right. Or you could just, like, sit and read a book like a normal person. Stop trying to save the world in 5 seconds.
Yeah. And Murtagh is like, listen, you're telling me you want us to try and stop the uprising. I'm going to need a little more information as to why. Because he's like, this is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah. He wants to know what's going on. He knows they're definitely hiding some, stuff from him. He's just like, how are you so certain? Like, how do you know what's going to happen? What are you hiding from me?
And Claire's like, listen, if we could, we would. And Jamie jumps in and says, one day. And Claire's kind of like, And Jamie's like, one day I will tell you everything, I promise. And, like, that is enough for Murtagh. Like, to know.
He
like, I trust this person. We have a relationship that runs real deep. And all right, you say jump, I'll say how high at this point.
Yeah.
Because I trust you.
Yeah.
And then Claire's like, sorry, when are we gonna just mention that I'm from the future? He's like, we'll figure it out, Sassenach.
Yeah.
So they're at Jamie's cousin's apartment.
I guess
they do call it that.
Yeah.
And he's so French. Like, look at his like satin outfit, and he's wearing a wig.
So many wigs.
So many wigs, and it won't be the last season of wigs.
You're gonna get some moles.
If anything, this is just the start of the wigs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure.
Do you say moles?
Yeah, moles.
Do we have moles?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
They're definitely moles that appear. I don't mean rats. I mean literal moles on faces.
No, I thought, yeah.
People were confused. They're like, there's a rat this season.
I just had a flashback to like a CD-ROM like computer game with a mole, and it was like a spy, but like actually like the character of a mole. And my cousin had it, and he lived on Staten Island, and I only went to his house, like, twice, but I remember the second time I was there, I was like, yo, you got that game still, or what? Like, isn't that funny, certain...
CD games? Oh my god, what is that one
I don't know.
called? I'd have to look
I don't know, but there's another one that I think of a lot, because it was my favorite game, and I just looked it up, like, less than a year ago, and I found the name, and I can't remember. It's one with, like, a girl, like, mad scientist. She's, like, a child who's, like, also a mad scientist who has, like, a lair in a mountain. And there's, like, a robot that's your guide. And you have to, like, go and, like, do things in all these different rooms. Like, a music challenge. And then, like, it was definitely, like, a STEM game before STEM was a thing.
Interesting.
Or STEAM.
Interesting. I'd have to look that up and check
They
it.
have it.
I know the CD games I played were like Sims, Carmen Sandiego.
There's
like a Barbie game where you like race horses and you get to feed the horses.
I did that.
Or apples, yeah.
100%. I loved that. Wait, was that the same one that it was a fashion show, or were those two different ones?
I think those are two different games.
Okay, but did you have the fashion one?
I think so, possibly.
You could do like, you make her clothes.
Yeah.
I would 1,000%, not kidding you, would love to play that right now. Like, I would really enjoy it.
They're just classic. There's something about that. Yeah, it's like, also putt-putt. That was an old game.
I didn't have that, but I had a soccer one. It was like where all the people were around. It was kind of like Wii soccer is kind of like that, right?
Oh.
I don't know, but I remember distinctly, I remember playing it Thanksgiving morning. And, like, being upstairs and, like, smelling Thanksgiving food and playing this, like, soccer game.
And you're waiting till, like, the computer loads and, like, turns on.
Do you know what my favorite game was?
What?
Because I'm a giant nerd.
Oh, my gosh, say it.
Encarta 98 had a trivia game.
On CD?
Yes, CD-ROM. Encarta 98. And it was, like medieval themed. So it was like a medieval castle, and you had to answer trivia questions of all the things that exist in Encarta 98. And like, yeah, I was
up all night.
Obsessed. And there was this one room I could never beat, and there was no way to like be like, help me beat it. So I just like constantly would like get to that one room and be like, I don't know the answer. No. Yeah.
Would you ever like hold your pee when you're playing? Like you just wouldn't pee for the longest time?
I don't remember that. But I'm sure I did.
Yeah, I feel like all kids, I guess, in general, when you're just so zoned into playing video games. About it.
That's the thing. I don't think it's like a decision. Kids aren't like, I'm not gonna pee. They're like, I'm just not aware of peeing
you're not,
at the moment.
You're just too involved in what's going on.
I don't know about my bladder.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's probably stuff happening on the screen. So essentially, Jamie's cousin was like, hey, I need to go to Africa for a little bit. Do you want to, like, run my wine business for me? And he's like,
sure.
Okay. And then they're like, hey, like, you know, you're down with, like, the Jacobite Rising, right? And he's like, who told you? They're like, don't worry about it. They're like, we're just curious, like, do you, like, maybe know the Bonnie Prince? And he's like, yeah, like, I have some connections and stuff. And they're like, interesting.
Yeah, they probably do that quite often. The coming season or this season where they just using their connections. Ooh. And also this is our first glimpse.
Yeah,
right?
So
at
smallpox.
Yeah, it was definitely not the bubonic plague.
No.
But it was, people were already getting sickness that was spreading. The gentleman just had it that was on... No, wait, maybe so this one's not small. Oh,
I think it is.
You're
they're
right.
at the port.
You're right. It's somebody, they just took someone off of the ship.
So
and of course, Claire's like, I'm a healer! Let me throw!
Yeah. Okay, so the big reason this is a port where all of the, like, vendor ships are essentially unloading their product. So if you have a crew member who has a contagious disease, bad things happen if you own that business.
Yeah. Well,
so they're trying to
is contaminated.
Keep everything under wraps. And here's Claire being like, hold on, it might be smallpox. Did you all hear that? It might be smallpox.
And who's this? Like, Comte Saint Germain?
Yeah, Comte Saint Germain.
Oh, wow, that was gorgeous.
I don't know, is that right?
It sounds beautiful.
I just try to make it sound like I'm talking through my nose. I feel like is that how French works?
It was well done.
I don't know.
Is that how French works?
Saint Germain. Sorry, anyone out there who is French.
Oh, wow, the guy didn't even make it. The guy who had smallpox, he's dead.
Yeah, he dead.
He dead. Skull face.
So
who else got it?
Everyone's a little nervous. It's a little tense. Wow, watching these people with face masks on. Huh.
Yeah. Old G N95 masks.
Looks familiar.
So they believe the information that Claire has told them. And she's trying to set up a quarantine immediately, but
yeah. So Claire's like, listen, they need to listen to me. Everyone needs to be quarantined. Like, this is really important. And Jamie's like, I really need you to be quiet. And Claire's like, no.
Yeah.
And he's like, please.
Yeah, he wants to fly under the radar. Well, and of course, Claire only knows how to attract attention.
Yeah!
and you're immediately a valuable person when you do this. Like, and you're just like, oh,
I think
diagnose it.
Yeah, and Jamie knows what's about to happen. Yes, so, essentially, the guy who runs the port is like, listen, so sorry, Comte, but we're going to have to burn your ship. And
with
he's
everything
like...
on it. So he just lost a lot of supplies.
Yeah. And now the Comte is like, oh, I'm so sorry, Claire. Who the hell are you?
Claire Fraser.
She's like, I'm a healer.
English woman.
So, like, no one likes the English, essentially.
Oh, I mean, no. They were in Scotland and France. They haven't been to Britain yet. No, nobody likes the English.
Oh boy.
So this dude's already not a fan of either of them.
And Jamie's cousin Jared, I think his name is like, hey, listen, we can all just like, take a little break. Let's just cool off. He seems to clearly not like Comte either because they're competitors.
Yeah.
Because the cousin also imports wine and stuff like that. So I think the cousin is kind of towing the line between, like, enjoying the fact that Claire has caused this mess and also knowing, like, they better be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously he knows it costs him his shipment, but Claire's trying to explain to him that, like, yeah, but it's better than the city, because of course she knows this could be a giant outbreak. But of course he doesn't know who these people are still. Like, they just appeared somewhere.
Right.
He's like, why is a British woman even here? Like, you know, and also it seems anytime Claire or Jamie appear somewhere, trouble follows them.
And he essentially leaves it by saying, like, well, you both will pay.
Yeah, which we don't know what that means.
That's pretty frightening.
Let me guess, we're going to see that guy again sometime. Something's going to be revisited.
So they're watching the ship being burned.
Oh, great.
And Jared's like, listen, like, just know that, like, the Comte will make your life a living hell.
You made an enemy today. Welcome to France! And see, he's still, like, they're still, like, so cheeky with each other when they talk to each other, Claire and Jamie. And they're like, kiss, kiss. Life's never dull with you. And I don't know. I would still be, like, frustrated. Be like, Claire, you couldn't just sit and do nothing? Just shut up.
Just shut
up. Stop. Just stop. Just pretend. Please. For the time we're here, just pretend you don't know how to be a nurse. You don't know how to heal. Just do me a favor and
like,
just...
No, here's how he would have to do it. He'd be like, honey, I was just thinking, like, what if, while we're in France, we, like, play this, like, fun game where we're, like, other people. Like, you can maybe be like, I don't know, like, just, like maybe, like, a milkmaid? And, like, yeah. I can be, like a farmer? Like, is that... That sounds fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that so cool, babe? Maybe, babe, why don't you just, like, knit this hat while you're bored?
All right, so that was the end of Season 2, Episode 1, which is wild. We really bounced around a lot there.
We certainly did, and now we are moving on to the scoring section.
Yeah.
The categories we have, a reminder to those both old and new, is steaminess, plot, feminine power, costume and set, and cringe factor. So steaminess, not really steamy when you tell, Frank that you're pregnant with some other man's baby.
No, it's like the opposite of steamy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely points for steaminess on their new outfits, Claire and Jamie, and being in France. Is that not steamy? I still think it's cute that they're in a new beginning in a new place with each other.
Yes, no, I agree with
I'm going to just give it 1 point.
I'm going to give it a 1 as well. They were very happy when they stepped off of the ship. It's cute to see them. They kissed again.
Yes.
Like, it's cute to see them reconnecting.
Yeah, they're now, like, a couple abroad. Like, it's...
Yeah. Yeah, they're, like, on their honeymoon. How cute.
Yeah. Very strange.
Okay, plot.
What would you say?
So I'm torn because a lot was set up, but we didn't have a lot of answers.
Just more questions, yeah.
So
we're not going to see anything deliver or
I'll give it a 3 because there are some really important things established.
Like?
Claire and Frank's reconnection and, like, the agreement that they've made, and then also kind of setting up the basics or the foundation of what's going to be happening in France, right?
Yes.
So I'll give it a 3.
I'm giving it a 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Feminine power. Yo. So she came in, once again, diagnosing the dude that, like, we know it's smallpox. You're being a healer. That's cool. That's great. I guess also for Mrs. Graham and Claire to kind of have that moment where it's just, like, woman supporting woman and, like, she believes her, but also giving her advice because you don't want somebody to just be lost, basically, and stuck inside their own head and forget to live life in the moment. Maybe I'll give it a 2.
I'm gonna give it a 4 because the fact that, like, Claire was able to go on in the whole first part of the episode.
It's just back to she does what she needs to survive. She
Yeah,
didn't really have
but
a choice.
she doesn't have. She could just give up. Do you know what I mean?
True,
Like she could have just jumped off a cliff or something. Like,
but she's
with how
more strong-willed than
devastated
that.
she seemed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never take her as someone who would do that.
I'm gonna do a 4, and I also think I'm gonna assume at this moment that she has some. She's very aware of what her values are, and that is what is informing her decisions. And so there's a lot of like integrity in what she's doing at this moment and why. Mm-hmm. So
okay. Costume and set is I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 as well. They kind of teased some fresh new French fashion.
Yeah.
We also got to see some great 1940s outfits.
Yeah.
It was good to see Claire back in that time period because I think she looks so great.
Yeah.
In that. I mean, obviously she looks great in this stuff too, but yeah, I'll give it a 3.
And we get a glimpse of the location. There's sets in France. Just for a bit, but that definitely will be extended as the season goes on. Cringe. Definitely just hella cringe between her and Frank.
Yeah.
Anytime it was Claire and Frank, not being, like just disagreeing with a lot of things, and basically just seeing two people who one's trying to hang on to the love he has for her, and one's just tapped out. That's the biggest for me. That's a toughie. I'll probably give it a -3.
Oh, right, it's negative. I keep forgetting. I'm also giving it a -3. Just like everything about how like upset and uncomfortable she was, and having to navigate those conversations with Frank. Frank's like outburst and aggression was cringeworthy. And then of course even coming to France, and then like it was cringy to like see her make this big scene about the smallpox and know that like she's now made a really big enemy.
Yeah. Already, so, our first day.
I know. So
my total is a 6.
I have an 8.
Fabulous. So get ready for episode 2, everybody. Keep listening. Keep watching our stuff on Instagram, and thank you for tuning into this episode.
Bye.